Hi everyone, this is Salim Sufi. Hope everybody is doing well. So welcome to a new topic this month, how to handle office politics or workplace politics. Now in this session we would be using the term workplace politics and office politics interchangeably, it means the same thing. So don't get confused with that. And interestingly, this is the only topic which is not taught into the business schools. And there are not much literature or books available on this topic, but for sure it exists in every organization, small or large. And I'm sure all of you are corporate professionals, you must have experienced that in your current or previous jobs. So today we are going to cover some of the concepts related to this topic and some of the frameworks so you could understand the context in which we are going to learn it. And so we have 3 sessions for this topic this month. In the next session next week, we'll talk more about the tactics. So today we are going to understand the strategic context of this topic, some of the frameworks around it. And next week it will be more tactics like practical tips, how to really improve your situation and make benefit out of it. And the third week we'll continue with that, but especially your questions, your situation. So this is a very practical topic. And I would encourage you not only that for today, you can keep entering your question into the question box. So I'll pick it up at the right time and try to answer it right now. But after covering today's framework, I think it would make more sense to you to come up with your situations and your challenges and specific questions that we could handle in the next session and the final session. Okay, so I hope everybody is good with the technology, that you can hear my voice clearly and see my screen. So I'm going to do a quick survey here. And the survey is basically your opinion. So let me read this sentence. That's a statement. So it's opinion 1. So where do you stand with reference to office politics? Where do you stand? So you may say office politics is caused by a bunch of scheming, self-serving scam artists that waste energy and time. We need none of it. Now, if you agree with this statement, then just type 1 in your comment box or chat box. So I could see that how many people are really endorsing this view. Okay. I see a few people there. Okay, very good. So this is opinion 1. And opinion 2 is office politics is bad, but I can live with it. I'll just ignore it. Who agrees with this statement or this opinion? Just type 2. Now, if anyone who type 1, if you want to change your opinion, you can do it. If you think no, probably 2 is more appropriate, you can again put in 2. Yeah. Okay, so it's progressive. It's not absolute. So if you want to change your opinion, you can change your opinion. Okay. Third opinion. Office politics is annoying, but I recognize that probably it's a fact of corporate life. I'll play the game when I have to, hopefully not too often. Who agrees with this statement? Type 3. And again, if you want to change that, you can change it. Okay, so many people are changing their opinion now. Okay. Next level, opinion number 4, office politics is bearable. Who think this is the right statement or right opinion for them? Okay. Opinion number 5, office politics is generally good and we should all get better at it. There is a place for politics at work. Who agrees with this opinion? Type 5. There are few people. Okay, good. And this is the final opinion. Opinion number 6. Office politics is wonderful, fun, and exciting tool that yields better decision for companies. We need more of it. Who agrees with this opinion? Type 6. Okay. So some people change their opinion at every step. This is interesting results, and exactly that was the intention of this survey, to see your changing opinion, which means that we started with the most negative scenario of opinion number 1, right? And everybody jumped on it, most of you. And as we try to modify, try to sound it more practical, then you started to change your opinion, and some even moved to the level of positive opinion about office politics. So reality is that office politics has a very bad impression. When you say the term office politics or workplace politics, something very negative comes up. So that's not true. That's only a matter of opinion or our perception. And the purpose of this particular session is really to go a little deep into it and understand what office politics is, and if it is reality, if it really happens every place, how could we really handle it? Because it would impact you somehow, some way or the other. So your opinion, these are all opinion, by the way. These are not facts. As I said, that you started with opinion 1 and then moved to 2, 3, or ultimately 6 for some people. This is based on some observation or experience. So maybe you had a bad experience with this. You were impacted adversely, badly, and you think office politics is always bad. Or you desire that you would like to work at a place where there is no politics, so you could really professionally focus on your job and your responsibilities. But is it really possible to have an office or workplace without politics? That's not possible. That's not reality. So this is a given fact that every place, large or small, has some form of office politics or workplace politics. So office politics is an area which is challenging for many people, because it's a myth as well as a reality. What does it mean? It means that for some people are very sensitive to it, office politics, and they are scared of office politics, and they are fearful of office politics, and they see office politics everywhere. And some people who are self-confident, who believe that I'm not impacted by any politics negatively, because they are confident and they are doing all the things right, they don't see much politics. So politics is relative. It's a myth and it's a reality. Its reality is that it is there. But some people, based on their background, based on their perception, will see the office politics everywhere. And some people say they don't see it, right? This is a fact. And I have observed myself in the same organization. Some people are very sensitive. So see yourself. For you, what is it? Is it really politics everywhere, so you are very sensitive to it, or you are self-confident and you don't see much of it, although some level is already always there? So that's one thing about the office politics. And it's both positive and negative. So usually, as I said, that general impression, image is that is very, very negative, something very bad. It's not true. In a positive sense, it's relationship, networking, and creating influence. Those are all part of the politics also, but those are positive part of the politics. When you do the relationship professionally, when you do networking professionally, fairly, ethically, it's all positive politics. And when you do the same things and it reaches to a level of manipulation, where you are manipulating others for the self-interest and others are paying the cost for it, it becomes negative. And probably that happens more often than the positive side. That is why people have the negative connotation to this office politics. Especially in a multicultural, multiracial environment, it is much more dominant. So many of you are from Middle East, and that is what I hear all the time, that there are groups, ethical groups, based on their country of origin, which play a lot of politics. And if you are in minority, you are impacted adversely about it. That's very common. So yeah, that is true. That is true, because people are able to associate or disassociate from each other, and that create more differences and more gaps between them. So these are a few facts about the office politics. So in reality, workplace politics is natural and unavoidable. You cannot eliminate it. Even the CEO wants no politics. They can say that, but in reality, it's always there. And the reason is that people have different views. People have different beliefs. People have different issues and challenges. People have different desires and needs, and people have different ambitions. You cannot really change that. And in many cases, those beliefs, issues, desires, and ambitions are legitimate, but it's different. It's varying from people to people. Some people really want to make a lot of progress in the organization, and some people are happy with their current job. Some people's needs are different. Some people are shy, they need more protection. Some people are bold, they do bullying for others, right? So whenever there are more people in an organization, there is more politics naturally. As I said, that if there are people from different backgrounds, different racial background, different religions, different cultures, different ethnicity, then there are more differences like that. So it leads into more politics. Now, these differences are biological, like some people are naturally shy, some people are naturally bold, or some people are environmentally, like they are coming from certain backgrounds, they are different. But more important, and I would call it really fuel on the fire, that yeah, whenever you put together a group of people, there are differences and there would be some level of politics, but fuel on the fire in the organization is that every organization has hierarchy. Every organization has positions, and every organization have different level of powers for different positions. That's really create more intensity of any political struggle or battle in an organization. And you can now relate it to your organization, that look, if there are 100 people, people have different powers, people have different positions, and people are in different hierarchies, and then relationship, and then their influence. All those things make it very, very complicated and complex. So workplace politics, and there are these are the explanations, or you can call it definitions. Workplace politics is the use of power and networking within an organization to achieve personal benefits. Now, one interesting thing you will realize, that in organizational systems, there are a lot of documentation and recognition about processes, structures, authorities, a lot of things. Nowhere you find any process for office politics or workplace politics. So and everybody knows that it exists, but it is really left upon individuals how they want to play it. That's also a limitation of the organizations. And mainly workplace politics is for your personal benefits. This is okay, because as a leader, you want to grow faster than anyone else, right? If you are able to grow faster, that's your personal benefit, not for other people's benefit, which is okay. But in a positive manner, you can use your communication, you can use your influence, you can use your power to achieve that goal, which is okay. But again, there is a very fine line of boundaries. When you cross that limit, that your influence and your networking and your relationship may turn into negative. Workplace politics is highly influenced by individuals and often serves interest, without regard to effect on the organization. As I said, that organizational processes, organizational objectives, structure are quite independent than workplace politics. And workplace politics work in the same way, but really triggered and governed and controlled and managed and maintained by the individuals in the organization. And individuals are different. So some organizations have very intense politics. Some organizations do not have that intense level of politics. And workplace politics is good and bad, and neither good or not bad. It is how people work for the organization. Implement makes the work politics look good or bad. As I said, that if there are matured people, and there are organizations like that, people are very mature, the culture is very matured, then they have good level of politics. And if there are a lot of differentiation among the people, level of maturity is very different, interests are very different, objectives are very different, goals are very different, then it could lead to a very bad environment of politics. So these are the some symptoms or signs of workplace politics. And you can look back at your work, current work or previous work, wherever you have that experiences. And if it involves really lying and cheating, backstabbing, psychological manipulation, bullying, self-promoting, ego tripping, favoritism, biasness against certain people and groups, manipulating, lobbying. So wherever you feel, those of you who think that there is high level of politics in their organization, you will also these symptoms or these signs very clearly. Especially with the grouping that there are favoritism. They are the people who are in power. They would usually favor certain class of people, and certain class of people are neglected, and that is what the politics start. The good part of the politics, good signs, good symptoms, is fairness, fair distribution and allocation of resources, fair allocation of opportunities, fair distribution of power, no authoritarianism, helpful work environment, and ethical working norms. When you see these things, now many people think that, okay, if these practices are there is no politics. That's also true, but that's good form of politics. As I said earlier, that politics is natural. Good form we don't notice, we don't observe, but bad form is very visible and very noticeable in any environment. So here is, I have another quick survey for you, same type. So and these are again opinions. So assuming that there are politics, and usually there are bad politics in many organizations. So in those situations, your main objective, how you protect yourself from the negative politics, number one. And number two, how you turn that negative impact into something positive for you. Because if politics is there, it would impact you. So think about yourself, how good you are at politics. Opinion number one, I'm totally helpless. Unless I have authority to beat someone to death, if they don't comply, people do whatever they want. You are completely helpless with politics. If you think so, type number one. Okay, so I see nobody is helpless, at least. That's a good news. Okay, opinion number two, I find it very difficult to get what I want done outside the scope of my direct authority. So you have more control on your resources, your people, but outside that, you really have very serious challenges. Type 2, if you agree with this. Okay, there are a few people. Okay, opinion 3, I sometimes get what I want done as long as my interests are aligned with the interests of other people. Now again, we are talking about the things outside the scope of your formal authority. Sometimes you get what you want done as long as your interests are aligned with other people. Type 3, if this is you. Okay. Oh, there are more people in 3 category. Okay, that makes sense. Number 4, I sometimes get what I want done, even if my interests are misaligned with interests of other people. So it is more challenging, but if you are in that category, type 4. Now here in these profiles, you are showing your muscles. You are politically smart. So assuming that politics is not a bad thing, if you are politically smart, you can get people to do what you want them to do, even if it is not directly in their interest. Number 5, I often get what I want done, even if my interests are misaligned with the interests of other people. Now the difference between this and the number 4 is often and sometimes. So if you feel that you can often exercise this, then you are in category opinion 5. Type if that is you, 5. Okay, I don't see anyone here. And finally, number 6, I freely and comfortably exert my influence on other people to get most things done. If you think that's you, type 6, which I doubt anybody would say. Yep, that's right. So most people are at 3 and 4, which is very natural. But you understand, now you understand that how politics work in an organization and what you really need to do in order to protect yourself and benefit from it legitimately. Now when we talk about taking benefit from office politics, we talk about ethics. Anything beyond ethics is not good politics, and you should not get involved as a professional. But when you are using your relationship skills professionally, it's part of the office politics in a good manner. Now, politics and power. So if you are politically smart, you have more power. Now, let me step back and explain one concept, which I think you know, but let me just ensure that you understand it well. In any organization, there are 2 organizations. So there is one formal official organization chart or organization where people are really given authority according to the formal organization structure, right? That's a formal organization. In every organization, there is a shadow organization or unofficial organization. Now, this is not declared by the organization, but this is very visible for people who understand the organization or are very smart in the organization. And these are, you could see that someone in the organization who is not very senior level person, but he's very influential around the organization. He has a very good relationship. Sometimes these people in the middle or lower level, they also have access to the very senior levels, C-level executives, right? Simply because they have unofficial powers and influence, they become more powerful. So there is a power game in every organization, power game. You would also notice that some senior executives who are already holding a very senior position, they look very weak. They are very powerless because somehow they are not able to even utilize their official given powers. So power organization or power play in every organization is very different than what it looks in the official organization chart. Now, again, if you are politically smart, I think you understand that very well in your organization, who is the power player and who is not, irrespective of their official titles. And some people are blind to it. If you are blind, you really cannot see that, then you are not politically smart and you maybe get impacted negatively by office politics. So politics is synonymous to power, but the main question is that what means do you use to gain power and how do you use that power at the workplace? That's what we are going to talk today. So there are 3, you can call it tools or areas which you can exercise or influence creating more political power in the organization. Number 1, your authority. Number 2, the culture of the organization, and number 3, politics. And I would strongly suggest you that while we are going through these topics, because what I'm discussing here is highly conceptual, although the topic is very practical, but until you relate these concepts with the practical environment, you would not be able to create a linkage. So I'm talking conceptually. You have to relate everything with your organization because all of you are experienced professionals. So you can very quickly link those people. Like I said, that there are very senior people who are powerless, you must be able to think of someone from the current job or from the previous job that they are senior but they are powerless, or there is someone who is not very senior, not have a very powerful title, but somehow they are very influential in the organization. So when you think of the practical examples, the concept becomes much more understandable. So what is authority? Formal power granted through organization structure. So if you are CFO, you have certain authorities on financial matters, the staff of finance and accounting department. That authority is given by the organization. So that's one thing that really determines the political power of the people. Of course, the people in the C-level category are much more powerful because they are assigned those level of authorities. Number 2, culture. Now, culture is not assigned nor given. Culture just exists. So, and it varies from organization to organization. So if you are working in an organization for a few years, you understand the culture very well. And if you have worked in some other organization previously, you would also understand that the culture in those organizations was very different. So culture is so strong that even it overlaps the official authority. So you said that, look, I was the CFO in my previous organization, and based on my authority, I fired one person, which was okay. In this organization, for example, you are working, it is not very common to fire people. Although you may still have the official authority, but if you use that authority, everybody look at you as if you have done something very unusual, right? Even CEO may criticize you that why did you do it? It's based on the culture. So official authority becomes very weak in front of the culture, because culture is really very strong. Now, some organizations are very demanding work environment. General Electric, for example, is notorious for work demands from top to bottom. Someone who is working for a small, very relaxed company, even if they are very good employees, they go to GE type of culture, they would fail quickly because the culture demands a lot more efforts and very brutal environment for work performance. So culture is very, very strong factor determining your power. Your power, even your authorized authority, formal powers are defined by the culture of the company. Third thing is really the politics. And this is more individual, your personal power. Effective use of power through your influence, your persuasion, your negotiation. Now again, this varies significantly from person to person. It's individual power. So in a nutshell, your authority, official authority, the culture of the organization, and your personal capability define your political power in an organization. As I said, notice here that these combinations, authority, culture, and politics, the combination varies from organization to organization. Something, for example, culture was very strong. Determinant of the power in the current organization may not be in the previous organization. In some organization, like governmental organizations, authority is very strong. You may not have the same level of intensity in your authority. In private organization, they have different cultures. In some organizations, newer organizations like Google, the culture is very relaxed. Intentionally, they create those cultures despite that senior people may have a lot of authority, because they want people to perform on their own, perform at their will, perform at their desire, not by dictating the performance. So the environment's really very different from organization to organization. So let's look a little closer to these three drivers of your political power. Authority. So as I said, although authority is supposed to be the most powerful ingredient of your political power, it's actually the weakest, because any executive or any professional, if they are using too much authority, they are not seen as very professional, as if they are seen as if they are dictators, as if they are weak, so they want to exercise their official power all the time. So despite the fact that authority itself is a very powerful, it's supposed to be very powerful ingredient, it's very weak, because generally people don't appreciate those things. And in today's organization models, there are a lot of people who are outside your authority. So if you are really going to use your authority all the time, then okay, you can exercise the people who report to you. But what about all the people who do not report to you? And you work with them, right? So even by structure, it's not going to work very effectively. And many people, despite they have a lot of authority, they don't know really how to exercise it in a very effective manner. So authority is, I would say, pretty weak ingredient of your political power. Next comes the culture. Now, as I said, culture uh, is usually given. When you go to an organization, you cannot decide that what culture you want to create, what culture you don't like or don't want to create, because it's already there. And it's even as a CEO. So let's assume that you become a CEO of a company, and CEO is the most powerful driver of a culture. And you go to a new company as a CEO, you don't like the culture, you think that it should be changed, you start your effort. It's not changing in overnight. You cannot change the culture by issuing a new directive. You need to work very hard. It may take years to create that culture, right? So culture is very powerful, but really least controllable from an individual point of view. Third thing is politics or your personal power. Now here comes the influence, persuasion, negotiation, your hard work, your image, your personal brand. This is the most powerful thing. So many of you have been following this program for several months. What we are learning here? We are learning leadership, right? What is leadership? Leadership is creating your influence. What is influence? Influence is part of politics. Again, in a good manner. So don't get confused by the word politics. When we combine relationship, influence, effectiveness, personal brand, everything, it's your political power. The people who are successful in organization, they are politically very strong. They have a sense of political awareness. We use that word very often. Creating social awareness or political awareness, really having a good sense what's going on. It may not be in your direct authority or in your direct responsibility, but just knowing what's going on, it's your political, is a sense of your political awareness. Now, this is a very interesting tool, what I'm showing you on your screen. So measure your political power, or you can measure your political awareness on 3 dimensions. Number 1, your authority and how much of that you are using. So you can say that my authority is 10 and usually I use 9 of it. So you are very authoritarian. Or you could, there may be other people who are very liberal, open-minded, but influential. They could say, I have authority of 10, but I hardly use 4 and 5. So that is how you could measure on this scale, right? That's one thing. Culture. So you can also look at the culture of your organization and then can decide or make an assessment how much benefit you are taking culture. So if culture is 10, but you are only using 4 or 5, or maybe you are using 8, 9, you are well aligned with the culture. That's another measure of measurement of your political power. Third thing is politics or your personal power. The other word for politics is your personal power. How much your personal power is and how much you make use of it. So you can say my personal power is 10 and I make 10 of it. So you are very good in influence, relationship, all the things you could personally do, right? So now look at this screen, this diagram. So you see a little bit change. There are 2 measurements here as an example. The blue lines, sorry, the red lines show where you are. If you make this assessment and try to do it very realistically, very honestly first. So just measure what is your authority where you are. So maybe your authority is 10 and you are at 8. Just mark 8. And in terms of the culture, maybe the culture is 10, but you are only making use up to 4. And your personal power could be 10, but you only make use of up to 3, right? That's your red circle, red shape, red diagram, red lines. You see 3 lines? That is how you would do first. what I am good at, measure that, right? Then step back and ask yourself what it should be, and then use the blue lines or look at the blue lines, that if you are using your authority to the level or extent of 8, maybe you should use that only to 5 or 4, should be, right? Ideal scenario. And the culture you are only using 4, but culture you should really use up to 7. And politics you are using only 3, but you could expand it to the level of 10, right? So you create this blue diagram over red, and that shows you where you are and where you should be. That shows you gap in your political awareness or political power. Very powerful tool. And although it's quite subjective, but you could make it quantitative by making a good assessment. So any questions you can drop in the chat box, I'll pick it up from there, but I don't see any question yet. So this one is very powerful tool, and I strongly recommend you to do it from today and keep doing it at reasonable intervals to see how are you doing. This is very effective tool to create political awareness and moving in the right direction. So once you create these two diagrams, like blue and red, like where you are, where you should be, it would immediately give you that how much work you have to do on it. So one of the important driver of creating or expanding your political power is to creating your political awareness, or in other words, it is also called political intelligence. Now, let me caution you. I think among you there would be many people, based on my observation in other groups, who would not be feeling comfortable with these things. Look, I don't want to get involved in politics. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm focused on my work, and that is what I want to focus. I really don't want to hear the rumors, or I don't have any concern to really be aware of the things which really not related to me. I guess there would be many people like that. So let me give you some clarification. What we are talking here, we are talking about leadership. Everybody is not a leader. Everybody cannot be a leader. In fact, my assessment is that 90% of the people they want to be leader, but they don't have the potential to become leader, 90%. And there are only 5 to 10% who become leader. Ultimately, they have the potential and they become leader. Now, when you want to be among 5 to 10%, you have to have a very different qualities and characteristics. And it's also a matter of learning many things which ordinary people don't do. And as I said, that based on your previous knowledge and previous experiences and background, you may think that politics is really a bad word for you. Because first of all, we relate politics with the country politics, which is usually not good. So that's one problem, that the word itself is not good standing. But even if you just isolate the politics from the governmental politics and look in the organizational context, it still doesn't sound good. But as I explained, that we are talking of good politics, you can use another word for it if you don't like that. But if you want to become a leader and you want to really be part of 5 to 10% of the professionals, you have to do these things, which means not only your work you do, you also have to exercise and use your relationship skills, your influence, your networking, your branding. Look, all the things we have been talking in this program, right? So if you feel that, look, this session is not making you comfortable, what I'm suggesting you, well, you have already been learning this so far. You already learned personal branding, relationship, networking, emotional intelligence. All these things are part of the positive political management or developing your political power. Because without political power or personal power, you cannot become a leader, right? So you need to, if you have struggled with this concept, you need to digest it. Or the other option is that you can decide, no, I'm happy with being among the 90%, which is perfectly okay. 90% people, many of them are happy where they are. So as I said, leadership is not for everyone. But since you are already here, you have been following these things for several months with me, and you have made a lot of other efforts, which means that you want to be a leader, and hopefully you have the leadership potential. So yes, there are things which are easier for us to do and things which are challenging for us to do. And the part of the leadership is really to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's what we are going through. Let me look at the chat box. There are some questions. Please elaborate the steps into this if you can make some question in respect to each. I'm not sure with what reference this question is, so I think this was a little earlier. I was discussing something. So Pankaj, please provide the context, then I would answer that. Please mention the scale in the diagram. Oh, okay. So I think people are talking about this diagram. Let me go back. Yeah, this one. So I thought this is very easy, very simple concept that you could create the scale yourself. So as I said, think of a scale of 1 to 10 for each dimension. And you could write it here and think that if maximum is 10, which means if you have 10 authority, if you have 10 culture, if you have 10 politics, that's the maximum you can go, and probably that's the maximum you are using. But so what, anything under 10 could be your reality. And then think based on your organization that what should be the good combination. Even if it is 10, 10, 10, it's not ideal because you need to really reduce your authority usage. In an ideal scenario, people don't like those leaders who are using too much of their authority. People like to see the leaders, the genuine leaders who are more influential, which means your political power should be high and you should make best use of your culture but less of your authority. And that's exactly what is reflected in this blue diagram here. If you look at the red, these two examples are itself showing where you should reduce and where you should increase. So I think that makes sense. The above was for the tool. Yeah, so I think I already answered that. Some departments in the organization feel finance is only dependent and don't contribute to the data we ask when we all work for a common goal. How to deal with people who think finance departments are ignorable. Yeah, I think this is also part of your leadership, that what you think about yourself, what you can do as a finance professional, and what other people think you can do for them, right? So you cannot teach them. Basically, leadership starts from the self-leadership. And what we have covered in this program so far is to first define your brand, personal brand. It's not about your capability because you are already capable of doing what you want to do, right? It's the perception of other people which you need to correct. So you start first with the assessment that what people think about you. Start understanding what is the perceived value, not the actual value, because you already know your actual value. What is the perceived value? And if the perceived value is the one which you don't like, then start making changes in it. And that is what we have talked a lot of things, how to change your brand, how to communicate your brand. And then there would be a time after some serious work, good work, that people will see that brand into you. The day people will see that brand into you, they will ask you to deliver what you want to deliver. But unfortunately, if I could generalize for finance function, we think we are very capable, and unfortunately, people outside finance don't think that we are that capable what we think of ourselves. So there is a big gap in our self-perception and perceived value by others. And that's a big problem, creating a gap and distance between finance and non-finance. And that is why many people outside finance don't think that finance people are capable of really understanding their business, which is also true to a great extent. What if you are part of my strategy program, then you would appreciate that how much we have been missing to understand business. It's not about our technical qualification, it's about our lack of understanding. Business models have changed a lot. Strategy has changed a lot. And unfortunately, the system in accounting and finance we follow to learn those things is not very effective. Our educational and professional system is lagging behind. Businesses are moving forward. So that's a long debate, but just to answer your question, that there is a genuine gap between finance and non-finance, and that gap, if you want to fill that gap, that starts with us, not with them. Many times we are trying to teach non-finance people what we could do. That doesn't work. We need to first work on ourselves, change our brand, communicate that brand, and I am sure there would be a time when people will be looking for your help. And there are, by the way, many organizations where finance works very senior level involvement and integration with the other part of the organization. Dell is one organization. I think in Dell, they call finance department as a strategic support department, something like that. Because in that organization, those people are really capable of supporting other functions with the strategic type of insights. Okay, there is next question. Please explain how to handle groups based on common parameters with language, geography. So just hold on that question. I think we are going to address that later on in some slides coming up. Okay, so we were talking about creating political awareness or political intelligence. Political intelligence or awareness is about where the power comes, who are the power players, when do we have to play the power game, and how do we have to play that game, right? That's part of your political awareness and involvement in the politics of the organization. So where does power come from and how to get it? Who has power, who are the power player in the organization, and how to expand their power for your purpose. So it's not only about your own power. If there are some power players, how you could leverage to benefit you from them. And what are the time, when is the right situation to use or expand your power, and how effectively you should use that. So these are the common questions related to creating political awareness, political power, and using in the organization. So number one thing is that power comes from position. This is what we learned first thing. Power comes from position, from title. So your title really plays a role. Your actual authority, how do you control your access to the different resources, and your location. All those things really matter. They define your positional power, as I call it. So look at the finance department or finance function. If you have a title of CFO, let's say that you are head of finance. So you are the senior most person in finance or accounting organization, and your title is CFO. You have a lot more authority and power internally and externally. When you meet external people, they look at a CFO. But assume that instead of CFO, your title is finance director or a controller or a finance manager, but you are still head of finance. That significantly changes. Your title really enhances or reduces your political power, positional power actually. So yeah, in many countries and organizations, finance director is equivalent to CFO, but CFO is a unique title. CFO gives you a lot of authority and perception. So that's one thing in your positional power. What is your title? And then the real authority. As I said that in some organization for a CFO or senior executive, it's okay, it's acceptable to fire people. In some other organization, it's authority is there, but actually doing it is not considered a good act based on the culture of the organization. Then how much you control the resources and allocation of the resources. And resources does not mean the financial resources or any specific, lot of things, whichever thing is valuable. For example, in finance, you control information. Which information goes to which, that if you have the leverage to control that, it gives you some authority and power. People look at your source of information, you become powerful. And you can use it smartly to enhance your powers. Your authority to set objectives, goals for your staff, do their appraisal, change their compensation, that's also your positional power. Access to information we talked. If you're a CFO or you're a payroll manager, you have access to a lot of very sensitive information that gives you power. Your location in the organization. So maybe central neutrality. You are sitting in the head office. In large organizations, people who sit in the head office, they are seen as more powerful, and also how connected you are. So you may not have a senior level position or title, but somehow if you are close to the CFO or CEO or another senior executive, you have more power. Or sometimes even you are not connected to the CEO, but sitting in the same office building where CEO is there also gives you some power. So notice that power is not your officially provided authorities. Power is also the perceived power, how other people see you. And other people define your power by all these things listed here. That ultimately determine the positional power. Now again, if you look different organization, you will see in some organizations CFOs are very, very powerful. In other organizations, they may not be powerful at all. In some organizations, the CFO title, people are managing only 10 million worth of revenue. In some organization, CFOs are maintaining and managing 10 billion worth of revenue, huge difference in their authority and responsibility. So it's relative, but that's one source of political power. So seasoned player know how to create resources to control. So as I said, resources are not means the tangible resources only. Anything valuable in the organization may be a resource. For finance people, information is a good example. So you are a controller and you want to enhance your power. Well, you could think of a management report which may be very useful to many people outside finance. And if you create that report and start distributing, and the report is really good, that's a resource which you are controlling. You created that resource and you can control it. Other people will be looking at you to have that information also from you. That is how you create more power for you. Also, you need to defend your positional power. You have certain authority as a CFO or controller. Now, CEO of the company has all authority, exceeding, superseding everyone else. Now, what happens in a political environment, if some people don't like you or they don't respect you, they may start going to the CEO directly to get the approval which you are supposed to give, right? That's an encroachment of your authority. And you need to protect it. You need to talk to your CEO that, look, don't entertain those people because they should come to me as or take my authority back. So don't let your authority dilute by encroachment. You need to protect it. And again, some people don't care about it, but politically smart people do care about it. This is another self-assessment tool or template for you. So in order to make an assessment of your positional power, use this template. What is your formal authority? On the left-hand side, what is your formal authority? Number one, how much you have control over resources, and what is your location in the web, not website or internet, but in the organizational web. Where are you located, right? And then don't quantify, but just make an assessment, high, medium, low. Your formal authority is high, medium, or low. Your control over resources is high, medium, or low, or location. And then why am I strong or weak? Once you identify your level, whether you're high or low, then identify the reason. That if you are weak in formal authority, what is the reason? Why is that so? If you are strong in resources, why is that so? That would give you better understanding. And then final column is, what is your plan? What can you do to improve your power, political power in the organization? And again, this is all legitimate. This is all doable. Some people don't think that this is really worth for them. But look, people who have serious ambition to really reach to the organization ladder, they have to take it seriously. It's a highly competitive corporate environment we are living in. And everything has a price. It's not your good work only which take you to the top. There are a lot of other things. As a leader, you have the skills to really play the power game very smartly. So I would also suggest that they take it as your home assignment to complete this template on your own about your positional power. let me see if there is any question. Okay. The second thing, so we talked about positional power. The second thing is your relationship power. Not the type of relationship which I'm showing you in the picture, but relationship at work, right? And that relationship at work involves networking, helping others, your linkages, your alliances, your reciprocity with other people, right? All these things really matter. So relationship power, and we have talked about much in detail about the relationship in the relationship session. I think many of you or all of you have attended that session that we talked in detail. So how could you use that relationship to exploit or to enhance your political power? So if you are good in relationship, you have good network, a lot of people really like you, support you, of course you have already a lot of power. So to make an assessment, identify your partners, coalition partners, people who are willing to work with you, not your staff, not the official partners, but in the shadow organization, in the non-official part, how many people are really, you have a sort of coalition, and assess their relative power, that how powerful those people are with which you have good coalition, number one. You need to spend time on this. This is part of your job. Relationship building is part of your job. So go out, meet people, and see how much you are involved in important decision making in the organization. If you are CFO and if you are controller, but you are not invited to the executive team meeting, then you are not representing your authority in the organization. There is examples in many organizations where finance is significantly involved in the management processes, and there are organization finance is not very much involved, neglected, very weak function. So you need to see. Now be careful here, that may be related to the culture of the organization, that based on the culture of the organization, finance is not considered very important. Now you cannot change that in the short term. If you try to change that, you may risk certain losses on your position as well. So be careful. I'll show you in detail how to handle it, but just be careful that whatever you want to do should not conflict and interfere with the long-term things like culture of the company. And look at who is benefiting from your decisions, and the people who are benefiting with your decisions, how could you leverage that in the long term? And based on this, creating political capital. Political capital, again, your power, your capacity of power, how much power you have, and how much you could use that for the political advantage in the organization. To create political capital, how? If you are doing a very good job, and you are seen as one of the best controllers or one of the best CFOs and one of the most professional finance person, you already have a reputation. That reputation is your political capital because you are seen with a respect. If something goes wrong, maybe there are some rumors about you of wrongdoing, people will look at your reputation first and decide themselves whether that fits with your image and brand or not. So simply by doing a good job, you establish good political capital to favor you. Then build reciprocity by helping other people, creating linkages. Now, these things usually are not part of your official job description. You should be really prepared to do things beyond your regular job, beyond your job description, especially when it comes to creating political capital. Help allies. Identify who are your allies in the organization. Who are people really like you, they support you, they are willing to do something for you, and help them, reciprocate them. Give them favor if you can through your power and your authority. And avoid making your opposed alliances powerful. Now again, let me caution you again and again, everything here has to be within the boundaries of ethics and professionalism, everything. Because the moment you are crossing those lines of ethics and professionalism, you are getting involved into the bad politics, which you should not. And build alliances. Identify the groups of people who are willing to work with you, help you, and you are willing to help and support them. This is very important in the organizational context. So your second assessment related to the relationship is that first to answer this question. Who do I need to succeed? Which means who are the people you want to make them successful? So if there are people in your department like finance manager, accounting manager, controller, your CFO, of course you have a lot of influence, a lot of leverage to make them successful. And then who are the people in the organization who may be interested in your success? Maybe your controller and your CFO hired you. Your success is their success. Your failure is their failure. Understand those relationships. Because if they hired you and you fail, they would be looked as if they are not a good manager to hire the right people. Identify those people who are invested in you. Then who is structurally or otherwise opposed to you? So in many organizations, there are functions, for example, who are basically conflicting with each other. So in some organization, I noticed there is a finance department, finance and accounting department. Then there is another department called management information department. Now that I don't understand, but that's a reality. Now that creates conflict because management information usually is the role of finance and accounting department to provide. Creating another department directly reportable to the CEO or the senior person creates conflict. So you need to understand who are those people or department who are structurally opposed to you, because they would never like to give their authority to you, and you need to be conscious of them. And then fill this template here. Who are those, starting from the left column, who are those people or department, right? And then identify, next column, how much current capital you have. Again, you don't need to really measure it, just identify high, medium, or low. Then how aligned our interests are, high, medium, or low. Then is the relationship threatened, high, medium, or low. How important is this person to me, again on a scale of high, medium, low. And then your power plan. What do I need to do in order to improve? There is always room for improvement, right? So after this assessment, identify some actions for you, what you could do to improve that relationship. So we talked about positional power, we talked about relationship power, and finally comes your own power. I would call it personal power. And this is the strongest one. What we are talking about here, your integrity, your reputation, your brand, your confidence, your influence, your emotional stability, your trustworthiness, all these things count here. Now, this is the easiest dimension of power to enhance and develop. Easiest, because this is all about you. And as I said earlier, that the leadership program you are following here or anywhere else, basically you are working to develop your personal power. Once you are able to develop this power, it's very durable, it's long lasting. When you change the organizations, your position change. Even remaining within the same organization, based on the authority, changes in authority or organization structure, your positional power may significantly change. If you move organization, the culture may significantly change for you. But if you are able to develop good level of personal power, it would remain with you no matter what position you are working, what organization you are moving, and which region you are transferring to. It remains with you. So this is the best investment, and this is the most effective one in the 3 powers. Again, you have to play these things within the boundaries of ethics and professionalism. So personal power, as I said, we talked in another session about the personal brand. That's your reputation. Simply by developing a very strong reputation and personal brand in the organization, you are politically protected. People will not touch you with wrong things or bad news or blames or those type of things, because you already have a reputation in the organization. Even other people would not believe that if they hear those rumors against you. Your ability to tolerate conflict and work with complexity. If you are a valuable, stable worker or employee, you are valued, and that your high value, high respect in the organization give you personal power. People look at you with respect. Your ability to recognize bad politics and respond appropriately. This is what we are talking about. Now, again, this is not an independent and separate subject we are talking here. We also learn these things in emotional intelligence. We also learn these things in relationship. We also learn these things in personal branding. These are all related concepts. But talking about the political awareness is making you more powerful. So you also need to see those things from this point of view. Your honesty, trustworthiness, and reliability, again, part of your leadership profile and your brand. Your EQ, your communication, persuasion skills, and charisma, all those leadership qualities. High value demand expertise. So also part of your reputation and brand related to your expertise. It could be technical, it could be general, but something which is highly valued for the organization, and it's not replaceable in the short term. That would also give you personal power. So in some technical area, for example, M&A, mergers and acquisition, there are experts who are in high demand because this is a very specialty area. Not everybody has experience. Fundraising, capital raising, capital generation, that's another high technical talent, highly respected. So see what are your technical skills which are high in demand. And then your enthusiasm, your hard work, your powerful ideas. Just if you're a good leader, you're able to really generate excitement among the people, able to really motivate them, then you are a power player in the organization. And you have flexibility to work with a lot of people. So all these things, all leadership attributes really add to your personal power. So look, we started with this framework in this program. And one by one, we have covered a lot of attributes here, competencies. Notice at the bottom what I mentioned. All competencies here are boiling down to one thing, which is influence. And that is the most important thing. In your work life or personal life or family life, anywhere, it is your influence which makes you successful or make you fail. Your influence is the driver of your success in any area. So there is no single formula, but when you develop your emotional intelligence, when you develop your branding, you create work-life integration, you develop your presentation skills, your leadership, your strategic thinking, all these things ultimately enhance your influence. And that is the best weapon you have to deal with the politics in any organization. So despite we have addressed a lot of ideas and a lot of approaches and methodologies, keep focus on creating and developing your influence end of the day. But that will make you successful. This is another very powerful framework in terms of the office politics or your relationship. Think of all the people you work with, mainly in your work environment. There are people who are in your control. Usually these are the people who report to you, right? And you are responsible for their performance management, performance appraisal. This is called your circle of control. The people who are reportable to you. Now, if you want to expand that circle of control, you can also think of the people outside work like your family. Hopefully your family is also within your circle of control. Next thing comes circle of influence. Now, these are the people who do not work for you, do not report to you, but you have very good terms with them, very good relationship with them. Maybe it's your boss. You could influence your boss, or maybe you could influence your CEO. And maybe it's other departmental head you could influence. Maybe it's your neighbor you could influence. So these people are not maybe in your control, but you can influence them. That's a second layer around this circle. This is called circle of influence. Third circle is circle of concern. Here are the people or the things. So not only people, you can also put things here, different type of things. There are things which neither you have control nor you could influence, but you have a concern about that. That could be external matters like law and order situation. You can't do much, but you are concerned about it. The country political situation, the war happening somewhere around the world, the poverty, the world poverty, hunger, these are the issues which as a good human being you are concerned, but you can't do much. You're just concerned, right? Very important part of a successful leader is to manage your energy, because it's not about time management, it's about your energy management. If you have energy, you have a lot of time. Time is not an issue. But if you run out of your energy, you will run out of your time. You will not be able to find time. Now, we don't realize, but there are a lot of things which really bother us day in and day out, mainly in the circle of concerns. We feel bad and we can't do much, because if you're a good human being, inside you have a justice mechanism. When you see something wrong, you want to fix it, you want to correct it, you feel bad about it, right? But you can't do much about it. Circle of control is good because you could take some actions, and even circle of influence is also good because you could at least talk to someone. But circle of concern is really a burning place for us, where we burn our energy, don't achieve much. So as a leadership tool, what you should do, try to, and this is a framework, very powerful framework, try to, over a period of time, try to expand your circle of influence and try to reduce your circle of concern. Now, look at this circle and visualize that somehow you are able to expand the circle of influence at the cost of circle of concern. So your circle, when you expand circle of influence, it would reduce your circle of concern. Now, how do you do that? Let's say you really feel bad about the world hunger and poverty. Well, join a volunteer organization. You're not going to solve the world hunger problem, but you would contribute, you would influence that, right? If you see some bad things happening in the organization, but you are not the CEO, well, go and talk to him. Try to influence your boss or CEO to fix those things. So point here is that even for the subject we are talking about, politics, the best approach, you cannot expand your circle of control too much because there is a certain given authority, and you cannot really reduce your circle of concern. But what you could do in between the two, if you try to expand your circle of influence, you would reduce your concerns to a great extent. You will feel good about you, that at least you are doing something. Maybe it is small. For a lot of good causes, if you provide a little contribution in terms of donation and charity, that makes you feel good. So your approach always should be expanding my circle of influence at the cost of circle of concerns. Anything which concerns you, bother you, see what you could do, a little thing you could do that would bring you from circle of concern, circle of influence, and the same approach applies to office politics. So few additional tips for dealing with office politics. We talked about left brain and right brain, right? Emotional and logical brain. And we are basically emotional being. So a lot of times we are empowered by our emotions. And so there are no burdens for the emotional brain or logical brain. But once you create awareness, you could create influence and a little bit control on that. When there is a conflicting situation with office politics, try to use your left brain and try to shut down your right brain entirely, completely. Because anything goes wrong in office politics is because of the emotions. So you need to create a sense of awareness that when you have to shut down your right brain, emotional brain, and try to activate your left brain. Not easy, but possible. Number two, use your circle of influence to your advantage. As I said, that in the circle of diagram we saw, you need to try to expand your circle of influence as much as you could do, and identify who are the power players. So you may not have all the authority or all the power you want, but if you identify the power players in the organization and work with them, you could basically use some of their powers to your benefits. And so back to a question also, that what do we do in the groups in the organization. Let me go back to that question again. So question was, please explain how to handle groups based on common parameters with language, geography, etc. So 2 points I would like to make here. Number one, when it comes to group, it's a reality. Yeah, especially in Middle East, there are groups. And if one group is dominant, that group is expanding more and more, and other groups are getting weaker. That's very natural trends in the organization. The point I made earlier that look, political office politics or workplace politics is something, if you want to see, you can see a lot of it. If you don't want to see, you cannot see, or you don't see much of it. Same goes to group. If you are very sensitive to the groupings, you would see a lot of them, or you will see very intense groups in the organization if you are sensitive. If you think those groups are dominating, you will see more things happening because of the dominance. But if you try to become a little bit neutral, look, this is a business organization. We are here for a common reason, to help the organization grow its business, right? That's a common purpose. And if you are from a certain part of the world, I'm from another country, it doesn't make a difference. That's the position you need to take to become neutral. My advice in a political environment is never try to associate yourself with a group. Try to keep a neutral stand, and promote your own personal brand. And I have really worked in those highly politically charged organizations. So when I was working in Saudi Arabia for a multi-billion-dollar company, that was highly politically charged organization, and there were a lot of groups. I never tried to associate myself with any group. I was an independent professional with my own brand, and although people know from my face, I live in America, I'm an American citizen, but people look at my face and I'm not the genuine real American, and I'm originally from Pakistan. But I did not feel any discrimination that anybody, because of my origin from Pakistan or I'm living in USA. I was just respected because of my professional expertise. So my advice you is that if you are impacted by the group politics, try to create a different identity. Now you cannot eliminate that. You could replace it. You could replace your identity. If you are seen as a victim, part of a weak small group, you need to change that, replace that by putting something else. So you become one of the best professional with IFRS knowledge, respected for that, or you have some other technical expertise, or you are a very good person, you could negotiate. Create something more noticeable than your group association, and people started to see you differently. So that is how you could handle the group politics. Also, I have suggested you several times to buy the books 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I hope that you have that book and you already start referring. If not, then habit 4, 5, and 6 from that book are really relevant to learn how to deal with politics. Actually, these are the habits. I just put this slide for you. Habit 4, think win-win. How do you deal with the situation that you are getting benefit and other people are getting benefit? So principles of interpersonal leadership, both are important, and we should work in a situation in a way that both benefit. Habit number 4, think win-win. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Very important. Principles of empathetic communication. Because many times we are eager to make our point of view, not listening. You need to develop a habit. First understand the point of view of others, and then try to make your point. And habit 6, synergize. Think creatively, think innovatively. What solution you would create that would benefit, that would create basically more benefit for each other. Principles of creative cooperation. As I said, that if you refer back to this book and go through these chapters, habit 4, habit 5, habit 6, there is a lot of relevant examples and techniques and tools which would really help you significantly overcome the political challenges if you have any in the organization. Finally, concluding thoughts. So playing the game of work politics is inevitable. You have to accept it. I already warned you that some of you may not be comfortable. Some of you may feel that, look, it's not my focus. I don't want to do that. But as I said, if you want to be the 10% of the leaders, you have to do it. And it's exhausting. Once you are in a very bad environment, it may be exhausting, but you need to really work on it. So playing the game of workplace politics is inevitable and extremely exhausting. In a politically charged work environment, extreme efforts have to be put forth in order to simply ensure that the work to be done has maximum priority. So yeah, a personal agenda are there, but even as I said, that two things you need to keep in mind always: ethics and professionalism. Ethics and professionalism, you are in the work environment to help your organization grow in their business. And of course, there are personal agenda, but that should not supersede the organizational objectives. Number two, workplace politics is similar to a game and requires careful assessment and assumption of risks. So there is a lot of risks involved. Play the game of politics with diligence and a full understanding of the players and their capabilities. As I said, that you need to understand power players. If this is a new organization, you are CFO, and you think based on the culture, why I cannot fire up an employee, and you approach the CEO and you try to deal very aggressively, that's a risky situation, because based on the culture of the organization is not considered good, and you are risking your position because the CEO may feel that you are not a fit into this culture. And that's a good reason for you to eliminate from that organization. Just be careful. Assess your risks based on the culture, positional authority, and the personal power of different people. And finally, workplace politics is a natural and unavoidable, because people will always have different, the first thing we said, different people have different and legitimate beliefs, issues, wants, and needs, and that naturally leads to politics, and you need to really learn your skills to deal with it. So your assignment for this, so next week we'll continue with the topic, but next week we'll try to address more practical issues, more tactics. So here I gave you a framework, the strategic level thinking about office politics. Next week we'll talk about specific situations and specific tactics. How could you really improve this situation on a day-to-day basis? But do those assessments. I already gave you 2 assessments related to positional power and relationship power, and one is the 3 dimensions of your power personality. Complete those things and identify some actions into it. Now, while you are doing this exercise, and this should be in reference to your workplace, right? So you will come some practical challenges that, okay, how do I do it? If I do this, this will not work, this will work. Come out with those situations, and you could bring those situations in the next session or send me in advance through email, and we'll try to make it more practical. So I think today's session have been helpful for you to understand the framework and background. What is politics? Why it is we need to do it? What are the factors? And next week we'll focus on practical aspects. Let me take a final look at the question box. Okay, what does it mean that our GM marketing is telling that he's comfortable to talk with me rather than my peer for doing a transaction required in exceptional circumstances? What does it mean? Okay, so first of all, it's your relationship. Maybe they are comfortable with you to talk something which they are not comfortable to other person. So other person, they may have a bad relation with you, they have a good relation. That could be one thing. The other thing is that they think that you are the type of the person, they feel that something is concerning, something may not be acceptable to finance, but they think you are the type of the person who may not object to it, and another person may object. So there are different possibilities, but it doesn't sound fair that why would they talk to you. Now, if you have a friendship, very close relationship, that's understandable, but you need to think beyond that, why they want to talk to you only and not to with the other people. The other question is, with respect to internal audit department, most other departments look them as policemen and try to keep them away from a lot of information, meetings, and also separately speak negatively about them to management. Please inform how should one handle that. Now, this is again very common practice or common culture in many organizations that functions and departments don't trust internal auditors. And mutual trust or trustworthiness is the basis of these relationships, especially for any audit or internal audit job. It is their responsibility to first establish the confidence and trust. Otherwise, they cannot do their job. So I think it goes back what I earlier explained about the branding, that how people see you. Now, internal auditors may think they are very capable, they know their job, but look, in today's environment, it doesn't work that way. You need to first understand what perceived value other people have about you. And if that is not right, you should work on it. Internal auditors are there for the same objective and goal as you are there, to help the business grow and help the make business successful. So if that is the common objective, both functions believe, it should not result in lack of trust. It's lack of communication or lack of branding. They need to remove the conflict in the perception. So that's a starting point. And I think finance has to do a lot on this part. How does learning local language like Arabic play in your career? Okay, there is a lot of myths about the languages that, for example, if you learn the language of the powerful players, which is true in the case of the Middle East, that if you, most of the senior management or the owners of the big groups are Arabic speaking, and if you speak the language, you get closer to them. I don't think there is truth in it. I have seen many extremely successful professionals working in those environments for 20, 25 years without really, now of course you develop some level of knowledge about that language, but you never become a fluent speaker like the native speakers, right? Except a few exceptions. So you should not really take pressure. I mean, if there is something natural that you have an opportunity to learn a new language and it is your passion, that's fine. If you learn that way, that's fine. But as a part of the career development, don't take as an objective that you need to become a fluent speaker of that language to develop your career or to get close to those people. First of all, it's very daunting task to learn a language at that age, because if you are already at the middle level of your age, mid-level, it's still possible, but it's very, very challenging. So you would be burning a lot of your energy and capacity, and it may not reward you as much as the effort is required. So I would not really encourage you, except that you have a passion for that. As I said, that and not only Arabic, I worked in Philips organization for 17, 18 years. And Philips is originally a Dutch organization. All the power players were Dutch speaking, and I had the same dilemma. In fact, I was sort of misguiding myself that I need to learn Dutch language to really reach to the high level. And that's not true. So my advice is not to go into that direction. Okay, I think I have exhausted your questions and I've exhausted my contents, and the clock is also telling me this is the time to end. So I hope the contents have been useful. You need to spend more effort and more time to digest it and relate it with other concepts we've already discussed, like relationship, branding, emotional intelligence, etc. And do your exercises and bring us the practical situations next session, or send me in advance so we could talk of those things in the next session. Until then, hope you have a good time. See you then. Bye now.